Hello, everyone. This is Seung-Yoon Lee. I'm in charge of the JTC 1 Advisory Group 2, JETI, the convener. So first of all, I'd like to say Happy New Year, and I hope you have a happy and healthy New Year to all. So as you know, according to the JTC plenary in the last November in Seoul, plenary approved the JTC Foresight workshop, 23rd of January today. And as you can see here, so this workshop have several objectives, identify the major trend of the direction of the future emerging technology from the view of the JTC1, and also the exploring the needs of standard to respond to the upcoming technology shift. Also try to seek the opportunity for cooperation and collaboration with the standard. And also we need to identify the standardization initiative that JTC1 can lead. Okay, so this is the objective of this workshop. And then I want to briefly introduce the program of today's workshop. Then we have several issues. After the opening remarks, probably Phil will join late. We'll invite him later. I will start the presentation for the introduce of the JETI activity. And then we have three important issues for today's workshop. Okay, so the artificial general intelligence from Anakari Pereira from HBUS. And also second important issue is cross-border data flow, DFFT, as will be presented by the Makoto Saito-san from Digital Agency of Japan. And third one is about the sustainable ICT technology, Francois SA41 chair and from Canada. And then we will have some open and panel discussion. So we invite some panelists, as you can see here. So all speakers is a default, the panelist, and Tony Holland from UK, Ali Muhammad from US, Toshiro Suzuki from Japan, the Hong Yang Queen from China. So we have a panel discussion. The panel discussion will have two parts. I will explain later. And then the wrap up. So this is the workshop program. So I will start with my presentation for overview of the JETI work. Okay, so I will change my slides. Yeah, this is the for your information. You can use the Q&A function in the Zoom. So if you have any comment or question, okay. Okay, this is the overview of the JETI work. So there are four parts. What is the JETI and how it works, and what we did so far, and what is the plan for future. So let me start with what is the JETI? So as you know, well, maybe JETI stands for JTC on Emerging Technology and Innovation. So our role is to identify the technology candidate for JTC1 standard. Yes, and also we monitor the other future consideration from JTC1 entity. This is nowadays very important to communicate with the JTC1 entity to get more information, some requirements, and sometimes we give some information for the future work, and also we have the mission to maintain the JTC1 planning process standing document 4. So every JTC1 plenary, JEDI, making some recommendation for JTC1 action. So this was start since 2017. And then this is terms of reference of JEDI. So as I mentioned in the previous page, most of things are already emphasized. So anyway, nowadays one of our important mission is to communicate with the inside of JTC1 and outside of JTC1 to identify the issue for future standard issue. Okay. Okay, how it works. This is the planning process stated in the standing document 4. Which is JTC1 planning process. So we have 3 phases of the work process. The first phase, information collecting. So we just collecting all the information from inside of JTC1 and outside of JTC1, even, the market research and Gartner or IDC and forest research. So many the technology of the planning and the future estimation information. We just collect all those information, and then we are having some internal survey, and then every year we identify the top priority technology. So I will explain more detail later. That is a phase 1 process, and then with that we conduct JTC1 survey to all JTC1 members, national body, and JTC1 entities, subcommittee and working group and advisory group as well. So and then we try to analysis what is the most important issue, what we have done with regard to the identify the top priority technology every year. So, and all those analysis reports results will be reported to the JTC1 plenary. At the time, also, if needed, we making some recommendation to JTC1 for their action. So this is the basic process of JTC1 from AG to JEDI. Okay. So this is more detail the work plan. For every year we update this one. So based on the standing document for planning process, we are doing many things, in, not only the information collecting and the internal survey, and we also develop the technology trend report we call the TTR. Okay, so we collect we every year call for new TTR, and then our member proposed to develop the new TTR for specific certain issue. Based on our consensus, we decided to develop the new TTR. So in parallel with the development of the TTR, as I mentioned before, based on the top priority technology, we conduct a survey and analysis and the recommendation. So this is yearly the cycle of our work plan. So TTR development is all the time we are doing for some the specific issues. Okay, so what we did. Okay, so as I said, the JEDI officially started from 2017. So the main law is to seek a new emerging and innovation area to be standardized in JTC1. So As you remember, 2017, we were developing some technology trend report of AI. And next year, quantum computing and autonomous vehicle, open source digital twin, and brain-computer interface, BCI. 2021 digital manufacturing, and 2021 the drone UAS. So this was done by the JT before. Okay. So after that, some issue delivered to the JTC plenary, and then the JTC1 create a new activity like SE42, artificial intelligence. Quantum computing also, we create a new AG and the working group. Nowadays, JTC3 split out to other JTC. Anyway, so we were tackling, the many other technology issue from our group. Okay, so BCI is now the new subcommittee is 43. Okay, so some of the work is not every issue creating the new entity. It depends on the issue. Sometimes we just through the TTR, we just creating some recommendation how the existing subcommittee or some working group should do to meet the requirements for that area. Okay. Then recently, now we are developing the intelligent computing TTR and metaverse. Both two area is already done by the JTC1. We just collecting all the information and what we are doing for this area, and then we just make some recommendation how to improve those area in JTC1 perspective. Okay, and then we publish the different type of the TTR. JTC1 TTR is different from previous TTR. JTC1 TTR is a public version of the TTR. So okay, so we are now last year we published two different TTR to the public. So I will explain more. And then we have three items, ongoing TTR items: intelligent uncrewed systems, and then the neuromorphic computing, and the cityverse. Okay, so as usual, Jerry is the call for new TTR based on the top priority technology. So you can propose anything for new TTR. Of course, because it should be based on the top priority technology. Thank you, Tony. Okay, and then this is the information for the public version of the TTR from Jerry. So the 2022 was first just the introducing of the Jerry. This is the first document. The second document is about the digital manufacturing. Okay, so there was this published in public, and then the last year we have two TTRs, metaverse and the intelligent computing. So you can download all those documents from this link. Okay, so this is JTC1 homepage and then the public information. Okay, so as Tony mentioned in the chat. Okay, and then I'd like to introduce current work. The three items, as I mentioned before, currently, the neuromorphic computing systems and the intelligent and uncrewed systems and the cityverse. This is not the public version inside of JTC1, okay? Because of this internal version of the TTR will include some recommendation for JTC1 action. So this is some strategic issue internally. Okay, so just for your information. So the neuromorphic computing system is the editor is Gangpan from China, and the intelligent uncrewed system, Dongmei from China, and the Cerebrus and the Sangun Yu from Korea. So we still developing this TTR, which will be introduced in the next May JTC plenary in Singapore in the interim version. Okay. Top priority technology. Okay. This is the every year, based on the JTC one planning process, phase one is information collection. After that, we every year identify the top priority technology. I just pick up some example from 2018 and 21, right? So you can see there are some technology lists. Some of our item is reflected to our major JTC1 activity. Okay, so just for your information. So sometimes we have a 15, sometimes a 25. It depends on our discussion. Okay. Okay. Some question, who can contribute to the ongoing or upcoming TTR? Everyone for if AG2 JT members, expert can contribute the proposal. Anyone can propose the new TTR on ongoing TTRs. Okay. But the new TTR should be based on the top priority technology. This I want to remind you. This is the last year top priority technology from JERI. Okay, so as you can see here is we identified the top 15 technology list here. Okay, so from AGI to the genomics, I just highlight yellow mark. For today's workshop, we'll cover this issue. This is why we are doing for the workshop. So AGI and the cross-border data flow and the sustainable ICT technology. So for neuromorphic computing system, intelligent unmanned system nowadays change it to the name uncrewed intelligent uncrewed system, and Cerebrus number 6, 7, 9 is now developing the new TTR, now ongoing stage, just for your information. So if you have any interesting for the new TTR based on this top priority technology, you can freely propose to the JERI and every monthly meeting. Okay. This is the survey results. I just pick up some information. Every year, based on the top priority technology, we are conducting the survey to national body and subcommittees and working group and advisory group. So, so we just identify the JTC one should address in the future and the important issue to consider. So, right hand side you can see just to pick up what is the just a highlight for what topic is people interested in. So first question, for example, what is highly related to current JTC activity? So you can see the response from the question 2 is about what is your interest. So AGI is the top the responding the item, and then the question 3 is about the official plan. What is any official plan to develop in your the subcommittee, for example? In that case, sustainable ICT technology is the most dominant response. And then the next question is about what is the metric for the most significant for the top priority technology. So for the emerging and innovative the item is always start with the definition and terms and definition issue. So this is why the first one. So I will explain later more. Here is also the part of the survey result. Okay, so left-hand side, you can see the question is what is the important area. So here you can see the blue color is a national body response, and then the red color is a JTC1 entity, SC or working group or AG. So most dominant response is for AGI, and then the sustainable ICT and unmanned systems, for example. So you can see what JTC1 members interested in for the top priority technology. And the right-hand side, you can see the table here based on the top priority technology. So just this is some metric. What is the importance for this area? For example, definition, and architecture, and the use case, and taxonomy, performance, something like that, the security. So you can easily recognize each topic has different degree of the interest for the different metrics. Okay. Okay, the question is how many national body join? So we got last year survey, so 54 response, including the national body and subcommittee as well. So more detail, you can see these documents. Okay. So JTC1N 17141 is a survey report. You can see the more detailed information. Okay. And also, I just pick up the one more question about what is the most important consideration for future standardization to JTC1. So we just give some example, enhancing the JTC1 structure, collaboration with other SDO, and expedite discovery of the emerging technology issue, reflecting other industry requirements, especially for verticals. Others. So the dominant respond is for the collaboration with other SDO. Maybe this is easily recognized. Now there are lots of overlap issue and the confliction with other SDO. So we need to always should be careful to work when we start a new work item. We should not only look inside of JTC1, but also to look at the outside of JTC1 activity. Okay. So this is introduction for the JTC1 Foresight workshop. I already explained. I just one thing highlight that this is the first workshop for JTC1 level to attempt a more in-depth discussion for future direction of to the JTC1. Okay, this is same as before. The future plan. Okay, so this is as always the AG2 Jerry will continue to develop the TTR. Now we have three ongoing items: neural-big computing system, intelligent uncrewed system, and Cerebrus. Jerry will also organize the JTC Foresight workshop yearly. Today is the first workshop, okay, to prompt the new emerging technology. So I think this is a very good timing to discuss about new emerging area with in-depth discussion. Also, Jerry will continue to discuss about the maximize the planning efficiency for future emerging technology. This is also very important, challenging issue. Every year we think about how we improve our working method. Okay, so standardization activity is getting complex every year, complicated. So we needed to find a more wise way. Okay. And then we will make some recommendation to JTC1. This is the future plan. That's all. So if you want to see more information, you can see here. Okay. I'm the convener of the AG2, and the Yesel Park is the secretary of JETI. Okay, so for your information, all the presentation slide will be shared after the webinar today. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Okay, so I want to hear some question. Any question or comments for that? I already answered some question during the presentation time. Okay, I don't see any. Here is some question, Q&A. What about the response rate to the survey? Tony is now trying to answer. Around 60% of responder, 60 or 70. A little bit complicated because with regard to the JTC or entity means subcommittee and working group and AG. In that case, around 80% of responder we have. And with regard to the national body, in case of national body, 60 or 70, a little bit different. The second question is about how do JTC and TTL relate to the existing TC, the overlapping topic, device perspective already. Yes. Nowadays this is a very important issue. Try to communicate with others, not only within the JTC1, if there is something from other SDO like IEC or ISO. So we invite some experts to review our documents. Of course, officially it is a little bit difficult to invite our the meeting, but we recommend it to the editor to communicate with relevant the expert in IC or ISO to get more information in order not to conflict or in order to seek more opportunity for collaboration. That's it. So yes, IC TC47 is also our collaborator for this topic. Do you see any difference in the future needs of developing country? Oh, interesting question. We actually needed more requirements, more things from many other countries to identify the new issue. But so far there is not so many requirements from developing country, but it depends on the issue sometimes. The sustainable ICT technology, I believe it need to consider the developing country issue as well. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Toshi. Thank you. Any other question? Okay. Let's move. Yes, please use the Q&A section to ask the speaker. Thank you very much for your interesting the question. Okay, let's move on to the next. I will stop the who. Yes, AGI. Pereira, can you share? Are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, ready. Please let me know if everybody can see my screen.
Not yet.
Does this work?
Now moving, right. We can see.
Okay, great. So thank you for having me. I'm so um, interested to see that AGI is really a top priority for JTC1. And so hopefully I can provide some clarity on this as an emerging tech. So I thought I'd start with an introduction of myself. Mostly because I'd like to sort of set the context for where I'm coming from on discussing AGI. Obviously, as the title says, I'm going to be talking more about the policy perspectives, right? So I thought I'd give a little bit of an introduction to myself, my previous work, and again, set the context of where I'm coming from and how I'm going to be talking about this discussion. So it's great to meet all of you. I look forward to discussion. My name is Anarkali Pereira, and I am the Director for AI and Digital Policy at HP. So prior to joining HP, I really worked a lot at the nexus of technology and geopolitics. I worked previously at a strategic advisory firm called the Albright Stonebridge Group, where I led sort of AI policy work and advised a number of companies, public policy teams at technology companies on AI and emerging technologies. Before that, I spent a lot of time in China. I worked at ByteDance on the policy team as well. And there I led the portfolio on technology policy and really worked mostly with internal sort of business teams and platform policy teams to support sort of work on AI and privacy, et cetera, et cetera. So where I'm coming from in this presentation is really a policy background, right? I am not a technical person. I know I'm speaking to many technical folks on this call, but I want to set the stage and say what I'm going to do in this conversation is really to talk about AGI from a policy perspective. And I also want to set the disclaimer that all of the things that I'm sharing today are not representative of HP, even though I am here in HP's capacity. So with that, what I'm going to try to do in this talk is to talk about how people like me, as I said before, that are sitting in policy, that are interacting with policymakers and multilateral organizations, how we are seeing AGI develop, right? And how we're seeing and interpreting a lot of those developments. And then I'm going to talk about sort of the policy landscape and with respect to the policy landscape, really focus on governance, right? And how AI governance is shaping up right now. And then also talk about some of the challenges that we are facing when we're talking about AI governance. And then in talking about some of those challenges that are already existing, that are already ongoing, that policymakers and multilateral organizations are grappling with, really talk about how some of those challenges might apply to AGI governance as technical capabilities develop and we make progress towards AGI. And then obviously looking ahead, happy to talk about the role of standards bodies, but obviously that's not my area of expertise. So with that caveat, gonna say, I will make some recommendations, so would love to hear your perspectives on where you think AGI, collaboration is needed. And so to move on and really talk about AGI. So obviously, I think the best and only place to start when talking about AGI is to start with the definition. Recently, I was at a meeting where people were talking about AI agents, and 30 minutes into the meeting, someone said, can we stop and actually define what we mean by AI agents? So I'm very glad that that meeting took place before this meeting, because I think a very, very, very important part of discussing emerging technologies is that we're all on the same page about the definition of AGI. So but the only problem, or I would say a fundamental problem with defining AGI is that there really is no accepted definition, or there's no consensus on one singular definition of AGI, right? And I will discuss sort of the challenge of this and how this really poses a lot of problems to working on not just standards, but AI governance collaboration as well. But so for the purpose of this meeting, I've sort of set out a working definition, which I think sort of encapsulates a lot of the consensus on how people are viewing AGI. And that is, a highly autonomous AI system that is very general, capable of generality. But really, the core sort of focus and issue in the definition is replicating human intelligence, right? And I should say replicating or even surpassing human cognitive abilities like reasoning, problem solving, perception, learning, language comprehension, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there's a real need to make this distinction between AGI and the types of AI that we are seeing in the world today, because I think that that distinction is also helpful to understanding where we're going. So today, when we're discussing AI, really we're talking about AI with narrow capabilities, right? Unless in some technical little working groups or in, different companies, that isn't the case. But really, from a policymaker's perspective, from where I'm sitting, really the AI that we are seeing today is still categorized as artificial narrow intelligence. And that's because these systems are highly capable, but they're very domain specific still. And they're generally bad at sort of generality and are unable to, in a meaningful way, exhibit characteristics of cognition. And which is why I've sort of put and included some of these characteristics of cognition, which was based on an AGI workshop that happened a few years ago, where scientists came together and said, okay, if we're really going to measure progress towards human cognition, then here are some of the characteristics that AI systems would also have to exhibit. Now, the problem with this is also that if you talk to cognitive scientists, they will also say that, characteristics of cognition or cognition itself is still very theoretically debated widely about what characterizes cognition, right? So just for the purpose of this conversation, I just want to say that, we're working with a working definition in the absence of something that, doesn't exist. But we're also working with ideas of cognition that, again, need to probably be better defined in science in general. But with that, let's talk about sort of the capabilities, right? But that's, obviously, definition aside, progress is being made towards AGI, right? If you look at model capabilities themselves, they've really, really expanded since 2022. We've seen a number of paradigm shifts in AI research and AI science, right? For example, we've seen reasoning capabilities improve, and this is quite significant. I think last year, I don't know if many of you have played around with OpenAI's 0.1 or 0.3 models, but you can really see tangible shifts towards better reasoning with models. And OpenAI's 0.3 model made significant improvements and showed very high rankings on AGI benchmarks, for example, the ARC AGI benchmark, which is a very critical test of human reasoning. Outside of that, we've seen multimodal, LLMs make progress and have better capabilities. Google's Genie 2 is a really good example of this. It creates these incredible 3D worlds, and in some analyses have been sort of said to represent a kind of leap in generality or towards generality, right? And then we've also seen AI agents gain momentum, and this year with OpenAI and Sam Altman, and a lot of people really talking about AI agents, becoming a very real, very autonomous thing in 2025. So we're seeing all these sort of very significant technical progress happen, but at the same time, we're also seeing a lot of research that highlights, capabilities in AI models that perhaps we fear, right? So for example, a lot of the safety research some of the safety research that came out last year highlights evidence that models can subvert humans, that they're exhibiting signs of deception, right? Exfiltration, for example, right? So a key research report that came out is from Apollo Research, which is a think tank that does AI safety research. And the Center for AI Policy sort of summarized their findings really, really well, where they found that, OpenAI's O1 could misrank emails to prevent its creators from learning about information about its own goals. Anthropic's Claude could overwrite the goals of a successor model when it found out that the developers were actually trying to clone the original model. So to preserve its old goals, what it did was actually replicate itself and save itself in a different place. Meta's Llama 3, changed some of the settings on its server to prevent oversight. So, from a policy perspective, again, where I'm sitting, and policymakers and people like me, we're looking at a lot of these developments in capabilities, but we really are also seeing these immensely concerning research that shows that, models are not just able to, models are able to, obviously do very capable things in their own domains, but they're also able to actively show sort of these concerning things like the ability to subvert developer intentions and the ability to deceive, right? And so, but there are still, very open questions about when AGI is going to be realized, right? I don't think that you can find two people in the same room that are going to make the same predictions, right? So there's a very big open question about the eventuality of AGI and significant differences between what people think AGI will become a reality. And I think, again, this comes back to this uncertainty about AGI as a definitional issue, right? So, Sam Altman and Jeffrey Hinton might have very different predictions about when AGI is going to become a reality, but also the reality is that probably is rooted in their very different definitions of how they define AGI, right? So again, predictions are predicated on the lack of definition or the people's own definitions. And this is, again, also very concerning to policymakers and people in the policy world because it creates huge information asymmetries about what we should be taking seriously and how we should be taking these emerging technologies seriously, right? And so, I think generally people understand that we should prepare, right? But the information asymmetry, I just want to sort of highlight, is a very real problem for people in policy. But nevertheless, policymakers are definitely very concerned. But I think really, again, the inability to judge for ourselves as non-technical people when AGI can become a reality and who we trust in terms of our predictions really has sort of led to, in the policy community, these tensions between, do we address short-term risks or do we also focus on the long-term risks? And this could be a problem with semantics as well, because really, when we're talking about short-term risks, policymakers are thinking about risks that we already know about, right? We know that AI has bias, that it can enhance cyber attacks, et cetera, right? And when we're talking about long-term risks, it's really these existential sort of catastrophic risks that really policymakers are thinking about, right? So I think today in policy, this tension is very, very real, and it really exists. And I think when ChatGPT first came out, there was a barrage of hype about existential risk. That was like in 2022, in 2023, right? In the year after ChatGPT came out, the Future of Life Institute issued an AI pause letter. I'm sure all of you have heard of that. It was signed by a number of big technologists and very prominent AI researchers, sort of asking, sort of saying it's in the world's interest to pause AI research before it's too late. And they're really, again, referring to AGI there. But really, since 2023, I would say a lot of these existential risk questions have died down in the policy space. They've really sort of they've waned out to really focus on very, very, very specific risks. And I think that's also a question of two things, right? One is knowledge asymmetries and knowledge barriers, right? Policymakers don't understand AGI. Even AI itself, there are huge, concerns about policymakers' inability to keep up with technology and technology developments, right? So there are knowledge barriers, but there are also resource constraints, right? Staffing technical agencies to actually govern AI. And so I think while it's safe to say that policymakers are still worried about AGI and generally existential risk, the focus for policymakers has really been on these very specific AI issues that they feel like they can have sort of more control over and sort of dedicate existing resources to. So this map is a map from the organization that I worked at previously, which is the Albright-Stonebridge Group, and this was sort of a map of where policymakers are going to focus in 2024. And that was, obviously developed in January 2024. And I think some of the predictions are correct, right? We've seen that policymakers are very worried about AI in elections. They're, increasingly continue to be worried about AI and cyber attacks, right? I think there are some new focuses that came out last year, especially on sustainability and AI, copyright and AI. Policymakers are really, really working on those issues as well. But overall, I would say a lot of efforts, a lot of the resources, a lot of, concentration and focus has been on these very specific issues rather than really, really AGI in the policy space. Right. And in terms of sort of governance initiatives, like national governance initiatives, this might be overly simplistic of me to say, and I will say it is overly simplistic. Because obviously different countries and different regional blocs have sort of adopted very different stances to regulation and AI governance. But I think overall, there is a sense that these governance initiatives still, again, are very focused on sort of, very specific immediate risks, right? And I've broken them into 3 buckets, and obviously these buckets aren't, this is not a taxonomy of risks that are, this is just sort of my own breaking down of, how governments have really thought about AI governance. One is national security. That has been a huge concern, especially in the United States, right? Biden's executive orders, whether that's the National Security Memorandum, the executive order, and I really, really focus on how will AI exacerbate national security concerns, right? How will it amplify cyber threats, introduce new attack vectors in critical infrastructure? There's also a lot of talk about how AI will change warfare, and again, how AI might undermine elections and democratic processes, right, through deepfakes, disinformation. And then there are ethical concerns, right? How do we develop AI that's privacy preserving? How can we protect against bias, discrimination? There's a lot of conversation last year, but again, about AI and copyright, IP regimes, and how legal regimes should probably change to keep up with technology developments in AI. And then there are obviously social concerns, which again can also be considered national security concerns also. For example, with energy, how much energy does AI consume, and what is the impact on society and the environment? Again, a lot of conversation in multilaterals around AI and the labor force and the future of work and job markets, and overall global inequality as well, right? So again, this is quite overly simplistic because, different countries have very, very different approaches to governance, but really the motivating questions and motivating issues for a vast majority of AI governance issues, or AI governance regimes and frameworks today are some of these concerns that I'm highlighting. Right. And then it's impossible to talk about AI governance, but also really going into the multilateral initiatives and how multilateral initiatives are overlapping, right? So there are obviously multiple multilateral initiatives that are happening on AI governance and that are taking place. I'm sure all of you are very much aware of some of these initiatives, right? And this grouping of countries is by no means comprehensive. I've just, sort of given this as an example of sort of the layers of initiatives that are happening, right? So for example, the OECD has its principles on AI. The OECD continues to make great progress through the Global Partnership on AI, on a lot of AI frameworks and governing, frameworks as well. But in parallel, there's also work within the G7 nations and Group of Seven with the Hiroshima Code of Conduct. At the same time, we have the United Nations, the high-level advisory body on AI that's also creating a global governance frameworks and working towards sort of including global South countries on AI adoption and AI governance, right? And then in tandem with all of these governance, really governance-focused initiatives, there are also a number of technical institutions that are working on AI safety, for example. A number, ISO obviously included, and the newly set up network of AI safety institutes, which the US held its first meeting in November last year, is an example of that, right? So we have these governance initiatives, they're all overlapping. We have technical institutions working on AI governance. The point that I'm really trying to make here is that, again, there are hundreds of guides, frameworks and principles that have been adopted by governance, companies, consortiums, and regional and international organizations, yet none of them are truly aligned. There's a lot of questions of interoperability and how comprehensive coverage, is. there are also significant problems with representation, coordination, implementation, right? And I would say at the last 4 months, at the end of last year, really the last 4 months, that every conference that I went to on AI governance, every single meeting, the big question on everyone's minds was interoperability, right? How do we make all of these frameworks align, and how do we make them actually valuable to developers so that there's it doesn't hinder innovation and doesn't hinder global uptake of AI, right? And I think the upcoming summit in France, the AI Action Summit in France, is also has a whole work stream that's dedicated to thinking about interoperability between national governance initiatives and international governance initiatives, right? And so to bring this back to the AGI conversation, I think that when you're looking at the existing policy landscape, the big question for policymakers is, how do we prepare to prepare? So like a lot of these existing governance initiatives, again, really focus on AI that exists, focus on concerns that exist. But for policymakers, there are two things, right? One is, when is AGI going to become a reality? Nobody knows. How do we define this, right? And then if that, once we even before we really get to those questions, it's how do we really prepare to prepare? And so there are some open policy questions that, again, I think are very relevant for discussions on AGI, right? One is concerns about foundational AI safety work, right? The science of AI safety testing, evaluation frameworks, a lot of that work is ongoing, but they remain nascent. And again, while these efforts are underway through the International Network of AI Safety Institutes, for example, they're very commendable. There are significant gaps in technical capabilities and technical coordination. And so for policymakers, it's how do we make progress on these foundational AI safety frameworks and AI safety work so that we are more prepared for when AGI is a reality, right? And then the second one is obviously on interoperability. I spoke to that in the previous slide, right? Obviously, if we are to collaborate on international AI governance and we are to collaborate among countries on AGI as well, we have to sort of think about common terms, evaluation frameworks, and metrics for measuring progress towards AGI. And then I think the third thing that's quite interesting is also new questions of, who is best placed to lead on which AI issues? And this is something that, again, came up last year in policy circles. Given the saturation of AI safety governance initiatives, the question that in the policy circle people are asking is, how do we delineate some of these responsibilities, right? Who is best placed to really talk about AGI, and who is best placed to maybe focus on other issues, or even who is best placed to focus on adoption, right? And there are obviously a number of different issues and sub-issues that we can discuss, but really the big question is, who do we really want to look to or collaborate with when we're talking about AI safety and then AGI as well? And then I'll end my, my presentation with talking about the role of standards bodies. Obviously, I'm not a standards person, I'm not a technical person, but I think some of the ways in which standard bodies can play a role in sort of supporting progress and measurement towards AGI is one to contribute to foundational vocabulary. I obviously saw that in the presentation before, there was sort of consensus on this, right? At present, there are multiple different approaches to defining AGI. In some cases, these approaches to defining it have actually coincided with designing of AGI systems, right? So I think we need shared operationalizable definitions for concepts that will actually support comparisons between models, risk assessments, and obviously risk mitigation strategies as well. And obviously clear criteria for policymakers and regulators to identify goals and identify progress towards AGI as well. And the same goes for the second point, which is to develop interoperable risk assessment frameworks, right? Obviously, to work towards common goals, we need environments and metrics for evaluation. So I think standards organizations can really help to develop, scientifically grounded, agreed upon methods to determine progress towards AGI. And then I think lastly, the point that I want to make is really that we need to expedite existing work on AI safety and security. And I think there's good work that's happening with AI safety, but less on other areas of AI, AI work like AI energy use and measurement of AI energy use, for example. And I think, expediting this foundational work will then help prepare us for when AGI becomes a reality. So with that, I will stop my presentation and very happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. So even AI safety issue is quite important, I think, I believe. Okay, so let's take some question. Some question in the Q&A window. Please look at that. What do you think is the role of the used language when finding definitions of common vocabulary?
Yeah, so I mean, I think language is key, right? Because as I pointed out before, I think a lot of the challenges to even starting to prepare on AGI is based on definitional issues, right? So I do think that, thinking through common taxonomies and interoperable ones is really the key to beginning to prepare. I don't know if I'm answering your question here very clearly, but so if I'm not, please let me know, and I can sort of elaborate my point. And I think there's the next question about the U.S. administration on AGI. I think that's an excellent one. So I think the big I think the short answer and the long answer is that we don't know. I think it's very hard to tell. I'm not a soothsayer. I don't want to make predictions based on, limited information. But I will say there are some signs, right? I think one is Trump has said very clearly, and his administration has signaled very clearly that they are going to take a stance of deregulation, right? So there's going to be a lot more deregulation, or rather a very light touch approach on AI regulation. And by this, he has already rescinded Biden's, executive orders on AI, and I think there's a lot of support from tech companies in Silicon Valley for this kind of stance. We don't know how that's going to play out, right, or what that means, because in the first administration, actually, Trump did make also some progress on AI safety issues, right? So I think deregulation is definitely going to be something we're seeing. And with deregulation, there's also going to be really heavy investment in AI infrastructure. Even before the Trump administration came in, there was a lot of conversations about energy and provision of energy to technology companies to make progress on innovation. And so yesterday, Trump announced a $500 billion investment into AI infrastructure. Now, it's to be seen how that investment pans out. There's an initial $100 billion investment with the promise of perhaps maybe $500 billion, right? So we are going to see huge investments into AI infrastructure that for AGI could mean that there's a lot more progress in technical capabilities as companies benefit from this sort of investment in infrastructure. And I think the third point is the interesting, let's say, friction, though, is that some of Trump's closest advisors actually are quite worried about AGI. And I'm talking about Elon Musk here, who is obviously one of Trump's closest advisors. And Elon Musk was one of the people who signed the AI pause letter. He has been very vocal about his concerns about existential risk. So it's interesting to see how these tensions play out, right? On the one hand, we're going to see deregulation. We're going to see increased investments in AI infrastructure. This is definitely going to expedite work towards AGI. But at the same time, we might see some sort of increasing focus on AGI, given that Trump's advisors are sort of worried about these issues as well.
Okay, thank you. So one more question in the Q&A window.
Do you think there's a gap between native and non-native speakers? Yeah, I don't know if I'm best poised to answer this question. I'd be interested to hear from sort of working groups like this on sort of how previously you've sort of fixed or worked on these discrepancies between native and non-native speakers. I don't know if I'm a linguist enough to to really understand or answer this question. So.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions? So we have a couple of minutes. Okay. So you are not working for standard, right?
I'm not working on for standards. No, I work on policy.
Yeah, so I think you raise up the very important issue. We're going to deliver your message to the the JTC people to covering the AI standard. Okay, so this is a very considerable issue for our future work. Okay, any other question or comments for this topic? Okay. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. Really helpful for us. Thank you very much again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next cross-border data flow, DFFT from Makoto Saito-san will present. Can you share your screen?
Yes. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. Let me start with my brief introduction of myself. I'm Makoto Saito, Deputy Director in charge of international affairs, especially international data strategy at Digital Agency of Japan. My responsibility mainly covers multilateral forums such as G7, G20, and OECD, APEC, United Nations, and other international and regional forums, and also a bilateral relationship with each countries as well. So basically, I have to take care of the discussion at all of these forums when it comes to DFFT, data free flow with trust, and cross-border data flow or data governance. And most recently, data security is one of hot topic globally, which we will touch upon later during my presentation. And I'm originally from the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry. So, and I have long experience in international affairs in METI as well. So that range from climate change and trade law like WTO and EPA, and also transport, automobile sector, and now most recently I'm in digital agency, so I covers digital or data issues. So today I'm gonna talk about DFFT and cross-border data flow, so which the digital agency is taking the lead to promote it together with METI. Okay. So I assume many of you already know very well about DFFT, but some of you may be not familiar with this concept. So I would like to start with the background of the DFFT and cross-border data flow. So, the benefit of cross-border data flow, such as enhanced efficiency in the government or business, and breakthrough in economic and social innovations are a natural assumption of the digitalized world and are becoming a decisive factor in maintaining economic prosperity and public order. However, enhanced cross-border data flow inevitably raise challenges as well, including but not limited to privacy, data protection, intellectual property rights, and security, and so on. So we need a practical framework to facilitate cooperation on cross-border data flow to address these issues based on common values and complementarities. Well, the concept of DFFT is first introduced by the then Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2019 at the G20 Osaka Summit and endorsed by leaders of the G20. Well, in order to promote international cooperation on cross-border data flow, trust, the part with T, was introduced in addition to the traditional discussion on data free flow. In this context, trust includes, as I mentioned before, the previous slide, which include privacy, intellectual property, or security, but it does not have a specific or concrete definition. Rather, it can be interpreted in different way, depending on each country's position and circumstances. More importantly, the significance of the DFFT is that it set up a constructive international game, meaning it's not about discussion on to flow or not to flow data, but rather data must flow. This is a precondition, and it is the specific condition that should be discussed at higher level. So here there is a role for international standard as one such condition in this discussion of condition. So the DFFT is not an idealistic view that data should flow freely, but rather it aims to provide a concrete solution through the use of new policy tools and technologies while taking into account each country's circumstances, such as different privacy and security laws and regulations. Like this, the DFFT sets the direction for such constructive international discussion. Well, since its introduction in 2019, the concept of DFFT has been discussed and developed continuously among ministers and leaders of the G7 and G20 as well. So this concept was not something discussed just within developed countries, but it was also interest of developing countries as well. For example, Indonesia, which proposed DFFT principle under its G20 presidency in, I guess, 2022. So as the discussion matured, there was a need to translate it from mere concept to actionable policy. So in 2023, under the Japanese presidency, the G7 ministers and the leaders endorsed the establishment of the IAP, Institutional Arrangement for Partnership, as a new international framework to operationalize the concept of DFFT under the OECD. So the next slide shows the features of this IAP. Well, throughout the discussion in 2019 and beyond, the G7 members identified the gaps in international data governance. This gap include, firstly, instead of the fact that data has a cross-sectoral nature, many sectors related to data, for example, trade and technology, had little inter-sectoral coordination. So this led to the need to have some framework for cross-sectoral international cooperation on data. And secondly, abstract discussion on concepts like privacy versus security. I think we never be able to provide a perfect answer to such discussion. So this shows the need to shift from the discussion on concept to concrete solution to actual issues that we are facing. And thirdly, most of the digital cooperation was more ad hoc in nature in the past. So which requires continuity and coherency of discussion through, for example, a permanent secretariat of an international organization. So again, international gap in data governance can be addressed through cross-sectoral cooperation, and 2, concrete solution, and 3, permanent secretariat or permanent organization. So the IP was designed to address these requirements as shown in the middle of this slide. Well, I will elaborate a little bit more on the second point. Well, as I said, the IP aims to provide a concrete solution to the, actual issues regarding cross-border data flow. So one of the features of the IP is a multi-stakeholder process, which means the IP involves not only government officials, but also experts from private sector or academia and so on, for better regulatory and technical cooperation and coordination. Well, especially as a government official, we expect those experts to provide technical expertise in developing or in coordinating policy, because in the area of digital, the speed of technological development is very high. AI is a good example of this technological development. So ideally, the policy, including laws and regulations, should be adjusted at the same speed of technology. But since policymakers, including myself, are not necessarily professionals of technology, including knowledge of the latest emerging technologies, we need to engage with experts who have such expertise when we consider new policy. So this slide explains the structure of the IP established under the OECD. Well, as you can see, the IP consists of 3 components. The first is the Digital Policy Committee of the OECD. Well, I'm talking about indeed the third element in the slide. But this DPC is OECD's regular committee body that deal with the digital agenda comprehensively, including data and AI. Well, in this committee, representatives from national governments participate and coordinate their policies. And the second element is establishment of several project-based working groups under this DPC, which is called the DFFD expert community as entire working groups. This is launched April last year. And I know some of you may be registered as experts of this community. As I said, these working groups are multi-stakeholder group, including not only government representatives, but also experts from the private sector and academia, and also international organizations. So currently, more than 300 or 400 experts participates in this community from each region of the globe. Well, under this expert community, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, currently 3 projects are underway. One is transparency, and second one is cross-border payment, and the third one is privacy-enhancing technologies, so-called PETs. So, and the third element of the IP is this is something relevant to international organizations like the ISO. Is collaboration with international and regional organizations outside the OECD. For example, there is an ongoing project, as I said, on improving transparency of national regulations on cross-border data flow. And this project could be conducted in good collaboration with similar efforts by a regional organization in the ASEAN region. The advantage of this collaboration is twofold. one is collaboration with external institution allows the IAP to leverage their expertise, just same as experts participating in the working groups. And from the perspective of implementation of solutions provided by the working group and DPC, the participation of members from outside the OECD would entail implementation of concrete solution by that member. I mean, outside the OECD members, from the outside the members. So, which means the solution coming out of the OECD would have a more broad effect on the members from the outside of the OECD. So, and I know that the Subcommittee 38 on cloud computing has issued a liaison request letter to DPC. So this could be a good example of partnership between the IAP and other international organizations. Well, next, I switch to the latest development of the DFFT. As you can see, the importance of DFFT was reaffirmed at the G7 Italy Summit in June last year. It was the reaffirm of the importance was not only in the context of digital or data, but also in the context of economic security. As you can see at the second bullet, the G7 confirmed their common interest in working on the protection and security of sensitive data, such as genomic data. Let's take a look at the background and rationale of this data security. Firstly, there is a growing demand for international data linkage along the global supply chain. Well, this can be from the perspective of laws and regulations for environmental or human rights protection. One of such example is the EU battery regulation, which aims to capture CO2 emission from the life cycle of a battery. So generally speaking, to comply with such regulation, all companies have to have traceability in terms of CO2 emission data along their complicated global supply chain. As I said, I was working at METI, and I was in automobile division, so I know how complicated their global supply chains are. So, traceability of data along their global supply chain. And if they want to have traceability along their global supply chain, which have to or necessarily entail cross-border flow of emission data. So secondly, as digital infrastructure, including the cloud, continue to develop, there is an increasing need to eliminate any risks or malicious intervention associated with the digital infrastructure and component thereof. So, however, it is practically very difficult to grasp and deal with all the details of such digital infrastructure and the digital infrastructure and the data flows taking place there. So, because often those are provided by private vendors, including foreign companies. So therefore, it is important to ensure measures on technologies and procedures to protect privacy and trade secrets in the global supply chain to maintain and foster safety, security, and trust in data flows between countries and organizations. Oops. Okay. This is last slide of my presentation. Well, since the concept of data security is quite new topic. There is no fixed definition globally. And as you can see, traditionally, security measures for data have primarily focused on the management of information system or software or product itself. So as you can see, A in this slide. So, but however, to address recent threats, as I explained, as background, it is necessary to advance security measures specifically for the data itself. So from my personal point of view, data security can be defined as adoption of appropriate rules, technologies, and also governance for protecting data itself to mitigate major risks associated with such data on life cycle basis, including, for example, the system design and procurement preparation stages. And here again, one of the measures means to protect data is standards. So, and when you consider data security, some of the issues you have to think about as follows, as you can see at the bottom. First thing, maybe what types of data, either government held or private held, are currently protected under existing laws and regulations. And second step will be what specific means are available to protect data. This includes technology and also standards. And as I mentioned, one of the ongoing project of the IP is PETs, privacy enhancing technologies. So PETs can be technologies for this, for protecting data itself. And third one is we should also consider how can existing cybersecurity and data governance initiatives be integrated with a package on data security. This is because data security is somehow overlap with existing cybersecurity, but they are still different. So Japanese government is now working on this data security, taking these steps, and happy to discuss globally as well. Well, I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take any comments and questions, if any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Saito-san. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. Okay, so any comments or question for this presentation? So I think this is also much related to the security and the privacy protection issue. In terms of with regard to the standardization issue, many considerations should be regarding the security issue. So is there any standardized issue only for the data treatment, not only for the security? So any consideration?
Thank you. Well, as far as I know, there is still no such standard. But as I said, because the IP is multi-stakeholder process, and also it can be collaborated with other international organizations, maybe the discussion in the IP could provide a good, well, how to say, good basis for making international standard on the ISO. From my personal experience, international discussion in international organization takes sometimes a very long time, and well, in that sense, maybe IP could be, well, the place to to have discussion among government officials and also experts on standards if they can be a good solution to specific issues regarding cross-border data flow. So I, as one of Japanese government official, I'm happy to expect or to see in the future the collaboration with the IP and the ISO.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have some question here. Maybe you can see there are two questions.
Okay.
The first question is,
Mhm.
yes, you can lead, please.
Okay, different national organizations have board documents have very differences in key concepts such as trust. Personal information isn't necessary to formulate the standard for cross-border data flow. Yes, this is yeah, indeed, very good question. Well, as I explained maybe at the beginning of my presentation, trust can be interpreted different way. And this is, in my view, the point or rationale why DFFT gathers broad support from global or each countries. If we have a specific single definition of trust, maybe it makes the discussion difficult because, as I explained in my presentation, well, it's difficult to provide well, perfect answer to, you know, which is important, for example, security versus privacy, like this. So the idea of the IP or DFFT itself is put more focus on what can we do against the existing specific actual issues, rather than having a discussion on concept. So I'm not sure if we should have a unique definition on trust. I'm not sure if I answered enough, but let me move on to the second question. Cross-border data flow. Oh, sorry. Cross-border data flow involves data security technology such as, yes, blockchain and trusted computing. Is it necessary to attempt to establish a special working group to carry out the standardization work on cross-border data flow? Okay, I'm not sure this question is talking about working group in the IP or not, but in case of if so, yes, this yes, this could be a good yes, it could be a good idea to have such working group under the IAP. Well, as I said, the working group under the IAP is project-based. So if we complete one project, we can also establish the next working group focusing on another issue. So if standardization becomes a new topic which the working group deal with, this is a good place to have such discussion. But currently, as I explained, only 3 projects are ongoing. This is partly due to a lack of resource within the OECD. So, and maybe in my view, it takes more time to complete the current 3 project. But in the future, another project or other projects can come into this IP depending on the interest of each countries. And Also, for example, as a government of Japan, indeed, we are considering a new project to be proposed to the IFP. So yeah, if the members of the IFP have interest to have a new project on standardization, the IFP should have such working group. Okay. The third one, what is the biggest challenge for DFT from technical viewpoint? Yes. Whoa. What is the biggest challenge for DFT for technical viewpoint? Well, yes. This is also difficult to answer, but from the experience as a Japanese government, well, as I explained in the last part of my presentation, the Japanese government is now working on data security. And as I explained, well, data security should entail, as data protection means, three components: rules and governance and technology. So when we discuss data security domestically, we involve experts of technologies, especially PETS technology for data protection. But, well, the assessment of technology is very difficult. Although, well, as I said, the IAP is multi-stakeholder process, and we can take advantage of expertise from those experts, but still, technological discussion on technology is very difficult to understand, and also to make to have consensus on, which technology is the best. So maybe we need more time. I mean, from the point of domestic discussion, we need more time or to assess which technology is appropriate to as a data protection method. So I think this is one of the challenge for DFFT from a technical viewpoint.
Okay, thank you. So any other question? So in the chat, there are some information from other related activity from JTC one site. So cross-border data flow, SS38 cloud computing. They are now published relevant standards. So you can refer that documents. Also share some current project for the data flow. Thank you for the information. I actually asking the technology challenging issue for the FFT to some LLM. So here is some answer from AI. So this is not ChatGPT, the Gemini reply like this. I don't know this is right, correct or not. So important issue is secure and trustworthy environment for cross-border data flow. That is important point to solve to enabling the full potential of the DFT. Not my opinion, just share. Okay, thank you. Any other question or comments? Okay, so we're gonna, in the panel session, we will invite all the speakers again to have more the further discussion about the issue. Okay, thank you, Saito-san. Thank you very much for your excellent the presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the sustainable ICT technology by Francois. Are you ready?
Yes, I will share my screen. Okay, I am ready.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. So, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a pleasure for me to talk to you, to present you this short talk about sustainable ICT. I am François Coallier, currently the chair of SC41 of JTC1. Succinctly, I'm present myself as a system engineer with expertise in ICT. I'm not an expert in sustainable ICT. When I put together this talk, I discovered how ignorant I was. But I think it should generate some good discussion about the topic and also the potential role that GTC1 could play maybe going further in this area. So what's the problematic? Problematic. I mean, if you look at, again, ICT as a whole, you must think about also about the equipment, the hardware itself. So there's, as you know, our global society has generated a large quantity of e-waste, electronic waste. And this electronic waste, these are some data that I found out. I'm not privy to very special studies where you have to pay to get access to the data. So this is freely available data. And it can be also subject to maybe some reservation in some case. But this is what I'm using in my presentation. And you can see here that you have things like large equipment, small equipment, screen and monitor, telecom. So ICT is buried inside all of that. Now, the problematic is that, as you know, first, electronic components have a finite operational life, especially if they are operating 24/7 hours, 7 days a week. This is simply very basic electronic. You have this bathtub curve of failure. Past a certain time, you have a wearing out of electronic components, semiconductor degrade, failure go up, and you need to think about your, again, operational issue if you don't change your equipment. Now, quality is playing a role in there. Some electronic is more ardent than other, can last longer, and also the operational condition. If you have a piece of telecom equipment that's always running at full speed, full bandwidth, or if you have other piece of equipment that can go into sleep mode on a regular basis. Then, very particular to ICT is technical obsolescence. You have equipment that will become obsolete. Obsolete equipment, as you know, needs software to run, no more software update. And then these piece of equipment can become risky to keep inside your network, be it the infrastructure, for, again, a security reason, and there can be other issue coming in. Now, also, excuse me, I have this little window there. At the operational level, you have energy consumption. All this ICT equipment were consuming a lot of energy. And as you can see, the growth in energy requirement is going up in a exponential fashion. And when you look at the breakdown, this was a surprise for me also, looking at this data. I mean, data centers are a big chunk, but that's not everything. I mean, you still have the device, the consumer device. It's decreasing there, maybe because it's getting more efficient. You have the manufacturing side, and you have networking that's consuming a lot of energy, more than the data center. So all the communication, the C part of ICT, does consume a lot of energy. And I think when you think about it, I mean, we have all this 5G environment. I mean, it does consume a lot of energy. I mean, we're living into an electromagnetic sea of Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi 6, 5G, and this is energy again. So on the data center side, this growth there, you can see on the right-hand side, and you have AI that's adding on top of that. This is, again, one view. The crystal ball is not perfect, and there can be a lot of, again, variation into again, extrapolation there. The reason we maybe that we're talking more about the data center than the other component is data centers are very visible. And when a data center is added on a grid, the impact can be felt by the grid operator right away. The communication side is all diffuse. It's at the home, it's spread all around different part of the network, as well as inside even the data center themselves and other telecommunication node. Now, this is coming out of a study that was quoted by an ISO open consultation of resource efficient software. ICT is about 8 to 10% of the global energy consumption, which is very significant. The data center being 1 to 1.3% according to those data of global electricity, which is a bit different than what I showed. Now, AI is energy hungry. This is, again, some data that I took, may not be perfect with some extrapolation, but what you can see is that ChatGPT, for instance, requests consume much more than a Google search. And then you have some other type of present and future type of requests on other environment or future environment. And it's energy hungry. And if you spread that around, this will contribute to, again, a very large increase in energy. And then on top of that, you have cryptocurrency, the generation of which it is very energy hungry, to the point that some country have banned, again, the mining of cryptocurrency on their territory. So again, same type of data, but putting data center in a global perspective, you do have a lot of other type of, again, demand for electricity, for energy, one of them being on the electric vehicle. Again, this is one projection. It can become obsolete or become very real. And also there's uncertainty, again, linked to all those projections, which is, again, visible on the right-hand side. So, but still, the problematic is there. It needs to be addressed. So what we're aiming at is more sustainability, sustainable environment. And sustainability, again, as viewed by ISO, is a state of a global system that includes environmental, social, and economic aspects in which the needs of the present are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So, very wide aspect. It's covered, again, there's even an ISO TC on this area. They are standards, but we're focused on ICT in this talk. So first, when we talk about the operational side, using green energy is part of the solution. Hydro, wind, solar, biomass, and I put again, there are many other, again, green source of energy, like, again, geothermal, nuclear, but it's not, it's part of the solution, but it's not the entire solution. We need to see how we can also optimize the demand side. So what I'll do is I'll try to be very systematic and go by all of those different components of ICT. So starting with the hardware that we talk about, all the e-waste, we can, and again, it is a very short talk, I couldn't elaborate, but the useful life of an hardware could be expanded. There are a lot of constraints. It's easy to say, but not easy to do. It starts with repairability, another aspect. And then on the other end, we can optimize the recycling and contribute to a more circular economy there. And again, when you look at e-waste from ICT equipment, there's a lot of metals, there's a lot of very moneyable, again, resource that can be mined, in a sense, from recycling e-waste. Standards in this area, because we are in the standardization business, mostly on the IEC side of the and they are standard. And again, this is not a full study, but can point out that JTC 111 and standard that they have issued and published in the last few years and updated, and they're working on new standard there. And I'm pointing out again now to a NETEC article about that. Circular economy by itself, you have again standardization work done, in this case in ISO, and standard that have been published. Silicon, I'm using this term to refer to the, again, the IC part of the hardware, which is very specific, very special, very important. And there's a lot, again, that can be done there. First, I could talk about Moore's law, about the way electronics has evolved. Nowadays, when we talk about silicon, we're talking about more than CPU, GPUs, and all that. We're talking about system on a chips. Best illustration there is with, and there's a lot of more example by other, again, supplier. But you have the system of a chip coming out of Apple, started with the iPhone. What you have when you put integrate again components, you can have more sophisticated architecture, not only multi-core, but you can have also more efficient integration of the different type of subsystems that are in the chip. So you can strive to more efficient, not only more performance, but also more efficient performance energy-wise. You talk Moore's law for the last 12 years has been more a question of architecture. You still are able to pack more component on a chip. You can change also the technology that you're using to consume less energy so that you don't have heat problem. A lot of work, a lot of direction. I'm not an expert in this area, but we can, again, look at it. And the technology I'm showing there is obsolete, as you know, now the current generation of Apple or the M4. Now, in parallel, some authors are pointing out that we have been getting more efficient. The reason why the footprint of AI is not as big as it was, according to these authors, is that you have more efficient, again, chips that have come out of the market in the last, again, 10 or 10 years or more. So this is, again, in the background. But we're not very efficient if we compare ourselves to biological system. The human brain, it's amazing, it's consuming only 20 watt of power, and it's extremely powerful in what it's doing. We cannot, again, emulate it now. So biology, and maybe this is with my other hat on biodigital convergence, has been a source of inspiration how we design a computer, especially for AI, and there's still a lot of work to be done there. And which bring us to other architecture. I mean, CPUs, but GPUs are a variation again on that. We're talking with traditional computer, what's called a von Neumann architecture, a very old design. And when we try to look at how brains is working, the human brain and other brain, we're talking more about neural network, what's called now neuromorphic architectures that are massively parallel and that are, again, event-driven. I'm not an expert in this area, but again, it's a very different paradigm. Very different paradigm that is much more efficient to perform many tasks. And there's a lot of room to growth. And this is one of the characteristics. You have, it's not science fiction. If I look, it's not put into value in there, but I think since 2008, a system on a chip, an iPhone, had NPUs, neural processing unit. There is NPUs in those chips there that are getting much more efficient and powerful. And they are appearing now also in the Wintel world, in other area. So we're talking about real, and they are used as such. So this is where, again, there's room for improvement, especially when we talk about AI world. And AI referred to, again, it's a generic word that referred to a family of technologies. Research in this area, found this little publication there. That's we're working on not only neuromorphic device, but using also a different type of approach called spin memristor, memory resistor. So different type of electronic there. And what they're claiming is, again, that they can have a very significant, you can see it there, 250 more powerful. This is in a lab gain from a traditional GPU in there. So simply showing it that there is a lot of potential in the future to improve, again, performance and optimize energy consumption. JTC1, as you know, and AG2 is working on the report on neuromorphic computing system. And through this report, you can see also that ICTC 47 is getting also, again, more standards out, standards on memristor device, neuromorphic device. Now, software. Software is very important. The software is using all those silicon hardware resources. And we should not neglect it. Now, there are approach for green software, but according to the study, they're not used a lot. What you can do is, again, is optimize, design your software so that it's using less, again, hardware, less resource. And there's a lot of things that can be done to do that. And also, you can adjust the behavior of your application or the software system. We have to be careful there, and it will see later, so that it is also more energy efficient in the way it's acting. Now, it can be things like getting into sleep or shutting out processor when they are not needed. And this is already done. This is done even in your PC, where you have also a CPU core that are more efficient, and other that are more powerful, and other that are more power efficient. But this is, again, you have to have the application that will use those capabilities there. So from a life cycle perspective, they are a lot. This is coming out from a blog from, again, Amazon Web Services. I took it out. As I say, there's probably a lot of more work around there, but you could, at each step of your life cycle for software development, and I would say more software system, because there are some system-wide issue coming in. They are action that can be taken to have greener, more energy efficient software. I mean, one of the starting point is to have a lean approach in the development, not to have any bloatware there. And then think about power consumption as you go forward. Use tools. I see in the development, they talk about programming language. It's more than the programming language. It's all the tools that are using this Symbolist that is a programming language to be able to generate more power efficient code there. So work there, opportunities there, again, in all our JTC1 software and system engineering standards. There is a standard, and I discovered it myself, that came from the Linux Foundation, that came through the PASS process, that's published by JTC1 to again specify and measure the software carbon intensity. So this is quite interesting, published last year. And you have this consultation that's done at the ISO level, and it's been open. I hope there's many, again, people from JTC1 that register there to look at, again, what can be done to promote through standard resource efficient software. And it's still going on. It started at the end of last year. When we talk about AI, I talk about the chip, but AI is a family of technology. I'm talking as a neophyte. There are a lot of different type of algorithm approach. There are also a lot of different ways to build, and even if you use deep learning to build those systems. I read about sparse learning. They have a pros and cons on the performance. It's all depend of the application. And these things, all those algorithms, those techniques have an impact on energy consumption to build, again, the model and to operate it afterward. So a lot of room there, and I know, and there are some initiative in this area. System level. System, I mean, the first system we're talking about are the data centers, and JTC1 as a subcommittee that's working on IT and data center and sustainability associated to that. And they're working very hard on a standard in those areas, and I won't go more the detail. And now there's a joint advisory group with SC42 on AI and sustainability. So work in progress there. But when we talk about modern ICT system, it's much more than an application running on a server. We're talking about distributed application. We're talking about system and system of system. So we can have, when we look at a quote unquote large application or service, I should use, we're talking about software that's distributed between the data centers, between the edge, and also at the extreme edge, on the components, on things. And at each level or in between them, you have communication. We talk about communication as being very energy, consuming a lot of energy. And this communication, it's not one size fit all. This slide is getting old, but it's not 5G everywhere. 5G itself being a family, again, of communication that has a common cellular technology that has a common thread. But there's a lot of different protocol that are available, a lot of communication approach that are available. So a system engineer that says want to develop a service will make decision about where to put its functionality, and also can have a choice about where the data will be processed. You don't need to feed to the cloud a constant stream from cameras. You can have onboard processing on the camera that may have a neuromorphic chip that will do some that will minimize a lot the information that can be fed on board if it is a car or to edge device, and there can be further processing there. And it's not only optimization of energy and processing. The design choice are also based about resiliency requirements that can be associated. You don't want to have an autonomous car that stops working if it's losing internet connection, for instance. So a lot of different protocol. This is old. My apologies. But it's simply showing up that when you look at the C part of ICT for systems, you have a lot of choice for communication, a lot of you have, in some case, some low rate technologies that are available that are also very low power. But you don't need to have a gigabit connection for any connectivity, which, and again, this is not free. So a good, again, engineering will start to look at all those different choice that are there. This is simply an example. I mean, you could add those different 5G technology in there and try to get the optimal choice, taking into account. So when we talk about low power, low bandwidth, you have the LoRa, for instance, and we're talking there about sensors that can have a 10-year of battery life, for instance, but you don't need that to have higher bit rate there. So again, this is an example that I took that I think is quite good. It's a true system approach there to have energy efficient ICT. In this case, it's IoT, but IoT is very wide. We're talking about a system concept. All those smart things we're talking about, smart cities, smart manufacturing, smart grid, again, are IoT based, they're cloud based, they're AR based, they're using all those technologies. So at each layers, they are decisions that can be taken, and the way also you distribute the intelligence, if I can use, between those layers, will have an impact. And all of that, and then based on that, it's an optimization exercise. So system approach again. So to conclude, and again, this is a very, very high level overview. I found this publication there that's looking at, from the point of view of an organization, what are the initiatives that can be taken to improve sustainability. And you can see again, hardware, management, I mean, the operational side that's coming in there, the software, AI optimization, sleep mode, type of energy that's using there, life cycle of the equipment, again, going back to the hardware there, recycling, again. So it's pointing out that, again, what we see behind that are also operational issue, and we're talking about also governance. As I'm pointing out there, there's another SC in JTC1 that's looking at governance issue. So, and this is probably inputs, but this is, again, personal perspective. Where are the touch points for ICT sustainability inside JTC1? So it's not only SC39, we're talking about the tools, develop software. We're talking about distributed computing, cloud, the telecommunication side, software and system engineering, life cycle, the governance, Internet of Things, system distributed, and SC42. Now, these are only touch point. There can be some other areas there, and it's only a personal perspective, a first cut, subject to probably a lot of debate and discussion there. And based on my very limited knowledge, GTC1, as I say, is very complex, and this whole area of ICT sustainability is very complex. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you for your presentation. I think you're exploring many aspects such as hardware, software, operational system with the relevant example of the standard. So this is quite useful for us to understand what JTC1 is doing for a sustainable ICT area. Okay, let's get some question or comments. So my first question to this area is, you already show up some landscape, what the JTC1 entity is covering some issue for sustainable ICT technology. But is there any further consideration not covered by the JTC1 for your observation?
Yeah, what I talked there is about potential. If I put my last slide there, frankly, it would be interesting to learn from people from those working in those group about what they're doing and what they could do further. My personal point of view is that I know in SC41 there could be more work in this area. It's an opportunity on the system side. And I would think probably there's potential in SC7 and SC40, unless people in those areas think that there's much more there that could be done. So it's again, and the communication side seemed to be not look a lot. It's a system point of view there, but when I went through, at least made my cursory search on the literature, and it's incomplete there. Probably if somebody work on a TTR, and I may volunteer to do that in those areas, there can be more research. But we tend to forget the telecommunication side. We talk a lot about data center and all the software.
So why don't you propose the new TTR for some area?
Yeah. So, but my own personal perception when I did the cursor is that probably there's a room for a lot more work, probably. In GTC1 or contribution. But again, it's subject to much more research and discussion. And there are a lot of people virtually in this room that are from those other SCs, so probably they could comment on that.
Yeah. Thank you. So any comments or question for this topic? I actually have one more question for this area. What is the key challenging for standardization issue when we develop the standard? What could be the key challenging issue? For example, sustainable ICT aspect, we needed to consider some coordination of diverse interests. The different stakeholders have different opinion. Also, not only rapid change of the technology, but regulation and some policy issue we needed to consider that point when we develop the standard for sustainable ICT. Of course, I'm not an expert on that area, but just sustainability is related to some regulation or some policy issue for each country in some sense. So this is why I'm just asking, what is the key challenging for the standard aspect.
Yeah, there's a, I mean, I don't know in detail the measurement standard that came from the Linux Foundation. The first, if you want to regulate or even put in spec, you need to be able to measure. So there's work to be done there for the different aspect. The other thing is that sustainability, well done, can be economical. I mean, power costs money. And knowing that it's because you have lousy software that very bad written or lousy system design that you're consuming so much energy can motivate without any regulation to work on it. Because you know the 80-20 rule, the Pareto law, probably there's some very some things that can be done. There are areas where you have very efficient software. It's because of design requirement. If you look at the software running on your phone, running on your watch, running again on IoT device, the motivation was simply you need to do it. And you have specialized again system, ICT system, power engineer working in those companies. I saw even announcement in some of them for these kind of people. So what we need is probably to give some tools, not only for the regulator, for also maybe when you look at the programming, all the software environment, maybe also the tool maker. Now, the other thing is that also I want us to be realistic, because I saw those comments coming from the ISO consultation group about obsolescence is bad and all that. But the problem is that obsolete equipment that's no more supported also not only can cause problem from a reliability perspective, and we want to have very resilient infrastructure, but also security risk. So there's a reality of ICT probably that you may not find in other field, in other area. But it has to be balanced. Maybe there's some other approach. And I think the other challenge for standardization is that, as you can see, it's touching a lot of things, a lot of different area.
Okay, thanks. I see there's some chat. Creation of a new standard is a neutral path forward. ISO needed to develop a way to update, to evolve existing standard whenever possible. Sure.
If I may, I mean, an example could be the SC7, and again, I'm talking like that because there may be a lot of stuff in there. I didn't read the last version, but SC7 have a lot of life cycle